One of the most exciting tools that we have in our hands that we're just beginning to use in the Amazon is LiDAR.
An AI-powered LiDAR scan has just uncovered something so astonishing. It's leaving scientists, historians, and the entire world in absolute shock.
New technology revealed an ancient civilization in Central America may have been much more complex than archaeologists believe.
Deep within the dense Amazon rainforest, hidden beneath centuries of jungle growth, lies the evidence of a massive unknown civilization, one that no one thought was there. Entire cities, vast road networks, and geometric structures have been revealed.
It's kind of like having X-ray vision and seeing beneath the canopy without having to touch a single leaf.
Challenging everything we believed about the history of the Americas. How could such an advanced society remain hidden for so long? Were these people forgotten by time, or is there an even deeper mystery about why their world vanished? The technology that made this discovery possible is rewriting the rules of archaeology, peeling back the jungle like never before. What researchers are seeing has stunned even the most experienced experts. Once you see the results of this scan, you'll understand why the world can't stop talking about it. The enigma of the Amazon. The Amazon rainforest has always been a place of wonder and mystery. Stretching across 9 countries and covering more than 2 million square miles, it is the largest rainforest on Earth. It shelters millions of species, many still unknown to science, and produces 1/5 of the planet's oxygen. But for centuries, people have whispered about another secret hidden beneath its dense canopy: the possibility of lost civilizations. When European explorers first pushed into the jungle, they brought back tales of great cities made of gold, like the legendary El Dorado. Stories of glittering temples, sprawling plazas, and kings draped in jewels fired the imagination of Europe. Yet, as expeditions ventured deeper and found only scattered villages, mud, and hardship, the myths were dismissed as exaggerations or pure fantasy. For generations, most scholars believed the Amazon was too harsh an environment to support large, complex societies. The soil was poor, the floods unpredictable, and the jungle unforgiving. At best, it was thought, small groups of hunter-gatherers and farmers could survive here, but never anything resembling the great civilizations of the Maya or the Inca. That belief shaped much of modern archaeology. The Amazon was seen as a natural wilderness untouched by major urbanization until Europeans arrived. Even in the 20th century, when a few archaeologists suggested otherwise, their ideas were often sidelined. How could millions of people live in a region where the soil quickly lost nutrients and where building materials decayed so easily in the damp climate? Still, there were clues that not everything was as simple as it seemed. Travelers sometimes reported finding large earthen mounds, strange ditches, or geometrical earthworks scattered across the forest. Farmers stumbled across pottery shards while clearing land. Aerial photos revealed odd lines carved into the ground, almost too straight to be natural. These hints suggested that people had once altered the landscape on a grand scale, but without a way to truly see through the jungle, the evidence was fragmentary. Some archaeologists began to wonder if the old stories might have contained a grain of truth. Could the Amazon have once been home to large settlements, connected by roads and supported by advanced farming? The idea remained controversial. Without solid proof, most researchers were stuck with the view that complex civilizations could not have thrived in the rainforest. Part of the problem lay in the environment itself. The Amazon is notorious for its density. Trees soar 100 feet high, with layers of vines, shrubs, and tangled undergrowth creating a green wall that is almost impenetrable. For archaeologists on foot, visibility is often limited to a few meters in any direction. Excavations are slow and difficult. Equipment rusts in the humidity, and insects plague every move. Even if a city were there, hidden beneath centuries of growth, finding it on the ground would be like searching for a single needle in a jungle the size of a continent. Yet the whispers persisted. Indigenous traditions spoke of ancient ancestors who built great places long before Europeans came. Some oral histories described roads that stretched across valleys or villages that joined together in networks. If these were memories of real places, they were now lost under centuries of rainforest. By the early 2000s, the debate reached a crossroads. Small discoveries, such as clusters of mounds in Ecuador's Upano Valley, hinted at something bigger, but nothing was certain. This question hung in the air, unanswered, for decades. Then, a new tool arrived, something capable of peeling back the green curtain without cutting down a single tree. This technology could reveal the landscape hidden below in astonishing detail, like lifting the lid off a box that had been closed for thousands of years. For the first time, Archaeologists had a way to test the old stories. If there truly were lost cities in the Amazon, they were about to be exposed. Clues on the ground. Long before lasers pierced the canopy of the Upano Valley, archaeologists already knew that something unusual was hidden there. For decades, scattered hints had emerged, each one suggesting that the Amazon might hold a more complex past than most scholars believed.
This is a very neglected area of the world, as far as deep and ancient archaeology goes.
These hints were fragments of a puzzle, and without a way to see the full picture, they remained tantalizing but incomplete. The Upano Valley lies in eastern Ecuador, a fertile region carved by rivers and shadowed by volcanoes. For centuries, local communities had noticed odd shapes in the land: raised earthen mounds, flat terraces carved into slopes, and ditches that didn't follow the natural flow of water. Farmers clearing fields often turned up broken pottery, grinding stones and ceramic fragments, some decorated with patterns that hinted at long-forgotten traditions. To the trained eye, these were not the leftovers of small wandering groups. They were deliberate constructions. Archaeologists documented rectangular platforms that stretched hundreds of feet in length, some towering more than 25 feet high. Others discovered faint alignments of ditches and embankments that seemed too regular to be natural. But what did they represent? The challenge was scale. On the ground, with dense vegetation pressing in from all sides, the mounds looked like isolated features. A team could spend months excavating one structure without ever realizing it was connected to dozens more just out of sight. The forest acted like a mask, breaking apart what was really a connected landscape into scattered, lonely fragments. Still, some archaeologists began to question the dominant narrative. One of them had been studying the Upano Valley for over 2 decades. He noticed that the size and shape of some mounds suggested communal gathering places. He found plazas that seemed designed for ritual or political events, rather than mere survival. These were not random campsites, but carefully planned spaces. Local legends added to the intrigue. Some indigenous oral histories spoke of ancestors who had built great places in the forest, complete with roads and plazas. These stories, often dismissed by earlier researchers, now seem to align with what little evidence was visible on the ground. Were these stories echoes of real cities swallowed by the jungle? Yet skepticism remained strong. The prevailing view was that the Amazon's poor soil and unpredictable floods made large, stable populations impossible. Even when archaeologists documented geometric earthworks in other parts of South America, critics argued that they represented temporary ceremonial sites, not cities. The idea of urban complexity in the rainforest seemed almost heretical. The Upano Valley mounds were caught in this debate. Without definitive proof, they were easy to underestimate. A platform here, a ditch there. Interesting, yes, but not enough to overturn centuries of assumptions. Many scholars believed they were looking at small village sites used sporadically by shifting groups, not evidence of a dense civilization. Still, questions lingered. Why were the roads so straight? Why were the mounds so large, requiring thousands of hours of labor? Why did the pottery suggest a long, continuous culture rather than a fleeting occupation? The pieces didn't quite fit the standard model. By the early 2010s, a few archaeologists began to whisper that the Upano Valley might hold something extraordinary. But without a way to see beyond the trees, they were stuck. Excavations could uncover artifacts, but they could not reveal the full scale of what lay hidden. It was like trying to understand a city by studying one street corner at a time. What they needed was a way to strip back the jungle, to see the land as it truly was. But deforestation was not an option, and aerial photography only captured the tops of trees, leaving the ground invisible. For years, the problem seemed unsolvable. Meanwhile, tantalizing discoveries in other regions began to shift perspectives. In Bolivia's Llanos de Mojos, researchers uncovered evidence of large-scale earthworks and complex water management systems. In Brazil, geometric ditches known as geoglyphs hinted at societies capable of large communal projects. If those regions had supported complexity, why not the Upano Valley? The tension between evidence and assumption reached a breaking point. On the one hand, the ground told a story of effort, planning, and permanence. On the other hand, mainstream archaeology insisted the Amazon could not have supported cities. The contradiction was glaring. This was the backdrop against which LiDAR entered the scene. Archaeologists knew they were standing on something monumental, they just couldn't see it in its entirety. The earthworks were like shadows on the wall of a cave, suggestive but incomplete. If LiDAR could do for the Amazon what it had done for the Maya lowlands, It would resolve the mystery once and for all. The stakes were high. If the mounds were truly part of a city network, the discovery would rewrite centuries of assumptions about the Amazon. If not, the skeptics would be proven right. The moment of truth was approaching. When the first LiDAR surveys were approved, anticipation ran high among those who had spent years chasing clues on the ground. Some quietly hoped to confirm their suspicions. Others braced themselves for disappointment. The data would either reveal nothing or expose an entire lost civilization. And as the first processed images began to come in, the suspense gave way to astonishment. The fragments archaeologists had struggled with for decades suddenly snapped into place. The mounds, plazas, and roads were not isolated at all. They were pieces of an immense interconnected whole. A new way of seeing. For centuries, the Amazon's greatest defense against discovery was its own density. What explorers, treasure hunters, and even seasoned archaeologists could not see with their eyes, the jungle concealed beneath endless layers of vines and trees. Entire landscapes could vanish under the green canopy, invisible from above and nearly impossible to map on the ground.
LiDAR scans revealed that the Upano Valley in the Amazon once held planned cities and advanced societies. Just like the Maya in Guatemala and Mexico, researchers found roads, plazas, and terraces.
But in recent decades, a new technology has emerged, one that does not care about leaves, shadows, or the deceptive tricks of vegetation. This technology is LiDAR. LiDAR, short for light detection and ranging, works by firing pulses of laser light from an aircraft toward the ground. Each pulse travels down through the atmosphere, strikes something, whether it be a treetop, a boulder, or the soil itself, and bounces back to a sensor. A single scan sends millions of these pulses per second. With advanced AI computing, researchers can separate the reflections from trees and leaves from those that hit solid ground. What remains is a bare Earth digital map, as if the entire forest had been peeled away. It sounds almost magical, but the principle is simple. Measure light, calculate distance, and reconstruct the hidden shape of the world. In landscapes where visibility is poor, whether dense forests, steep mountains, or jungle valleys, LiDAR can reveal what human eyes cannot. The potential for archaeology was recognized quickly. Before turning to the Amazon, LiDAR had already transformed the study of the ancient Maya in Central America. In Guatemala and Mexico, dense jungle had hidden entire cities for centuries. When archaeologists flew LiDAR surveys across those forests, the results were staggering. Massive plazas, intricate road systems, defensive walls, and terraces stretching across hundreds of square kilometers. What researchers thought were small ceremonial centers turned out to be sprawling cities supporting millions of people. That revelation alone forced a rewriting of Mesoamerican history. If LiDAR could do that in Central America, the question was obvious. Could it work in the Amazon? The challenge was immense. The Amazon's canopy is even thicker than that of the Maya lowlands, and weather conditions make flights difficult. But archaeologists were determined to try. Ecuador's National Institute for Cultural Heritage funded a project to bring LiDAR into the Upano Valley, a region long suspected of holding something unusual. Researchers had already spent years studying scattered earth mounds and fragments there, but they knew they were only seeing part of the picture. The surveys were carried out using aircraft equipped with high-powered laser scanners. The planes flew back and forth across valleys and ridges, sweeping the jungle with invisible beams of light. Onboard computers recorded billions of measurements, each marking the exact distance from the scanner to whatever surface the beam struck. At first glance, the raw data looked chaotic, a blur of points, layers, and overlapping returns. But once the vegetation was digitally stripped away, something extraordinary emerged. Beneath the trees lay a landscape no one had ever seen before, a terrain reshaped by human hands on a colossal scale. The LiDAR images revealed patterns, straight lines where no natural process could have carved them, perfect rectangles laid out in grids, raised platforms arranged around plazas, roads stretching arrow straight for kilometers, connecting places that had once been bustling with life. These were not random scatterings of structures. They were carefully organized, forming what could only be described as planned urban centers. For archaeologists who had spent decades trudging through the forest with limited visibility,
LiDAR scans in the Amazon uncovered vast planned cities, proving that advanced and organized societies once thrived there.
the moment was breathtaking. The mounds and fragments they had studied were suddenly put into context. What looked isolated on the ground turned out to be parts of vast interconnected cities. The comparison to the Maya discoveries was immediate. Just as LiDAR had overturned assumptions about Central America, it was now beginning to rewrite the story of South America's rainforest. The Amazon, long thought incapable of sustaining large-scale societies, was yielding evidence to the contrary. The images also revealed just how carefully the landscape had been managed. Terraces sculpted into hillsides suggested advanced agriculture. Straight roads and canals hinted at engineering knowledge. Clusters of platforms arranged around squares suggested community gathering places. This was not survival at the margins. It was deliberate, organized living. The implications were immense. If these patterns truly represented ancient cities, they were thousands of years older than many believed possible in this region. They also hinted at a level of social organization that rivaled civilizations elsewhere in the world. For the first time, archaeologists had undeniable proof that the Amazon's past was far more complex than imagined.
Archaeologists have discovered a huge ancient city hidden underground in Mexico, which may give a better understanding of the Maya civilization.
The LiDAR scans answered one question, but opened the door to dozens more. Each pulse of laser light had stripped away centuries of doubt, exposing an ancient world. And yet, the most important revelation was still to come. The Amazon, it seemed, had never been empty. It had been hiding its history in plain sight. The scans reveal the truth. When the first LiDAR scans of the Upano Valley were processed, the reaction among the research team was immediate and unforgettable. Years of trudging through dense vegetation, cataloging fragments of mounds and ditches, had prepared them for something modest, perhaps a few extra details to piece together their theories. But what appeared on their screens was beyond anything they had dared to imagine. The digital maps stripped the rainforest bare, reducing the terrain to a skeletal outline of ridges, valleys, and human-made structures. Suddenly, patterns leapt into view. Straight lines, so precise they seemed to defy the natural curves of the land, crossed the valley in every direction. Rectangles and squares emerged, clustered together in carefully organized grids. Mounds rose in symmetrical patterns, their dimensions strikingly uniform. And most astonishing of all, these features extended for miles, covering an area that dwarfed the expectations of even the most optimistic researchers. The AI LiDAR scans revealed over 6,000 rectangular earthen platforms, some almost 500 feet long and 26 feet high, spread across an area of roughly 230 square miles. These platforms were not isolated but linked to one another through an astonishing network of straight roads and footpaths, forming a grid that connected neighborhoods, plazas, and ceremonial spaces. Some of the roads stretched for kilometers, cutting arrows straight through the terrain, as though drawn with a ruler. The level of planning was undeniable. Wide avenues intersected at right angles, leading into plazas bordered by mounds. From the air, the settlements resembled a deliberate urban blueprint, as though the builders had imposed order upon the forest itself. The sight was so striking that researchers immediately drew comparisons to the great Maya cities of Central America, even though the Upano Valley civilization was both older and unique to its environment. Even more remarkable was the age of these constructions. Radiocarbon dating of artifacts associated with the sites suggested they had been built between 2,500 and 2,000 years ago, making them a millennium older than some of the most famous Amazonian urban systems, such as those recently uncovered in Bolivia's Llanos de Mojos. This meant that the people of the Upano Valley had been building and organizing cities long before the height of other known complex cultures in South America's rainforest regions. What the scans revealed was not a village or a ceremonial gathering spot. It was a civilization. Entire communities had once thrived here, complete with agriculture, water management systems, and social organization advanced enough to construct massive earthworks with precision and scale. For archaeologists, the implications were staggering. For generations, the prevailing belief was that the Amazon could not sustain dense populations because of its poor soils and fragile ecosystem. The discovery in the Upano Valley directly contradicted that assumption. The ancient people here had found ways to thrive, building terraces into hillsides, carving canals to manage water, and creating rectangular fields for agriculture. The LiDAR data even hinted at causeways and drainage systems, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of engineering. The researchers were struck not only by the scale, but also by the intentionality of the design. The roads and plazas were not haphazard. They were aligned with precision, often converging at central squares that likely served as hubs of social or ceremonial life. The largest mounds may have supported structures for leadership or ritual, while smaller platforms could have been dwellings, storage areas, or communal meeting points. The spatial organization reflected hierarchy, planning, and cultural vision. And yet, the similarities in scale were hard to ignore. Just as the Maya had carved plazas and roads from the forest of Central America, the Upano Valley cultures had reshaped their environment with equal ambition. Both cases revealed that ancient people did not merely survive in these environments. They engineered them, adapted to them, and built thriving societies within them. A civilization hidden in plain sight. At long last, the full picture emerged as the AI LiDAR scan found an unknown civilization in the Amazon. And now, the world is in shock. The truth was so astounding it seemed fiction, yet was unmistakably real. Experts were baffled. This is terrifying. How much have we missed? The digital maps generated from airborne laser scans revealed a sprawling network of settlements far more extensive than anyone had suspected. These interconnected settlements likely hosted at least 10,000 residents, with some estimates reaching 30,000 at their peak, comparable to Roman-era London. The precision of the design transformed expectations about the Amazon. No longer could scholars argue that the environment was too fragile or infertile for high-density settlement. Instead, here was proof of garden urbanism, a society that engineered its environment, cultivated the land sustainably, and built enduring infrastructure beneath the rainforest. This revelation shook the archaeological world. Researchers were amazed by the discovery, which used the AI LiDAR, but emphasized that this was not mimicry. Instead, this society had arisen independently, employing its own engineering logic and cultural forms suited to the Amazon environment. Yet, as impressive as the find was, many questions remain. Who governed these cities? How were such massive earthworks maintained? Did the volcanic soils from nearby Sangay volcano support intensive agriculture? And might eruptions explain the civilization's decline around the 6th or 7th century AD? The absence of evidence of warfare or destruction makes collapse theories more complex. Some believe societal collapse may have resulted from environmental changes, resource exhaustion, or external pressures, not necessarily catastrophic events. Still, only careful excavation, soil analysis, and further research will unravel the truth. What comes next? The discovery of the Upano Valley civilization sent shockwaves through archaeology, anthropology, and even the general public.
Archaeologists working deep in the Amazon rainforest have discovered an extensive network of cities dating back over 2,000 years.
The LiDAR scans didn't just confirm the existence of an ancient society, they challenged long-held assumptions about what the Amazon could support, how people lived there, and how civilizations can thrive in environments previously thought inhospitable. For archaeologists, the immediate task was clear: document, analyze, and preserve. Stephen and his team were already planning the next stages of research, which would involve careful, non-invasive ground verification of the LiDAR data. Drones, satellite imagery, and targeted excavations were being coordinated to confirm the functions of the roads, plazas, and mounds. Every new artifact or soil sample could provide insight into agriculture, social organization, and daily life. The discovery also prompted reflection on methodology. LiDAR, once a niche technology, has now proven itself indispensable in dense, inaccessible terrains. By allowing researchers to see through the forest canopy without cutting a single tree, it has enabled a level of large-scale analysis that traditional archaeology cannot achieve. Ultimately, the AI LiDAR scans did more than uncover a lost civilization. They opened a window into the ingenuity, resilience, and sophistication of human societies long forgotten. The world may be in shock now, but the real story is just beginning. A story of discovery, technology, collaboration, and a deeper understanding of our shared human past. The Upano Valley civilization is no longer invisible, and with every new pulse of light from LiDAR, every scan of the canopy, we may find that the Amazon still holds secrets capable of transforming what we think we know about history. What is the next step for AI? Let us know in the comments.